Bonjour mesdames et messieurs et bienvenue chez ma deuxième série sur la grammaire du français. Hello everyone and welcome to my second series on French grammar. In this series I will look at adjectives, and in this episode I will explain adjective noun agreement. I'll start by apologizing. This is a slightly lengthy video because there are quite a few rules and exceptions to go through, so please bear with me. There is some bad news here, and that is that in English we don't have adjective noun agreement, but the good news is that it's not particularly difficult to understand. So let's start with a preliminary statement about adjectives. Adjectives are a class of word that modify nouns or noun phrases, so they don't convey information on their own but have a strong relationship to the noun or noun phrase which they modify. In French, as we learnt in Series 1, Episode 1 on noun gender, all nouns have a gender, either masculine or feminine. And since adjectives are closely related to the noun that they modify, they take on the gender of that noun. For example, le crayon vert, the green pencil, bat la carte verte, the green card. In these two sentences, we can see that the word for green is slightly different. In the first sentence, crayon is masculine, and so vert is also masculine. In the second, carte is feminine, and so is verte. In general, to form the feminine of an adjective, we add an e to the masculine form. For example, bleu and bleu, meaning blue. If the adjective already ends in an e, the feminine is the same as the masculine. For example, sympathique. For adjectives that end in ien, on, eil, ul, s, and el, the final consonant is usually doubled before adding e. Some adjectives ending in et and an also follow this pattern. For example, ancien, ancienne, former or old, bon, bonne, good, vermeil, vermeil, rosy, nul, nul, useless or incompetent, gros, grosse, fat, réel, réel, real, muet, muette, mute or silent, paysan, paysanne, rural. As usual, there are exceptions to these rules. For adjectives that end in f, the feminine replaces the f with ve. For example, sportif, sportive, sporty. Adjectives ending in eux replace the eux with euse. For example, sérieux, sérieuse, serious. For adjectives that end in eur, the feminine replaces this with euse. For example, rêveur, rêveuse, dreamy. But for adjectives ending in teur, the feminine becomes trice. For example, calculateur, calculatrice, calculating. Finally, for adjectives ending in er, the feminine becomes e with an accent grave, re. For example, étranger, étrangère, foreign. Then, of course, there are some adjectives that don't follow the usual patterns. Some common ones are beau, belle, handsome, beautiful, nouveau, nouvelle, new, faux, fausse, false, doux, douce, soft, roux, rousse, russet, jaloux, jalouse, jealous, vieux, vieille, old, fou, folle, crazy, long, longue, long, frais, fraîche, cool, sec, sèche, dry, blanc, blanche, white, grec, grec, Greek, and also public, public, public. So we have a few different rules to remember when forming the feminine of adjectives, and a few words that we need to memorize off by heart. Just as the adjective reflects the gender of the noun it modifies, it also reflects the number. This means that if the noun is plural, so too will be the adjective. Just as with nouns, the general rule for forming the plural of an adjective is to add an s to the singular. For example, grand, grand. Or, in the feminine, grande, grande. But just as you might have guessed, there are some other rules to remember as well. For adjectives that end in s or x, the plural stays the same. For example, français. Adjectives that end in al or au replace this with aux. For example, beau, beau. There are some exceptions to this rule though, such as banal, banal, being commonplace, fatal, 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 naval, 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 and final, final, final. One final point about adjective noun agreement is that composite colours like bleu vert or aquamarine and colours that derive their name from physical objects like orange are invariable. This means they don't change their gender or number. There are a couple of exceptions for commonly used ones, such as rose, meaning pink, mauve, mauve, and violet, purple, which do agree with the noun that they modify. And that concludes my episode on adjective noun agreement. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions, please post a comment and I'll do my best to respond.